about the catalyst of my father passing just birthed this new version of who I am. And even when I'm in situations now, I'm very clear on like what is the lesson that I'm supposed to get from this?
Mm.
Two, who am I supposed to reach and teach right now? Because I do understand that my work as a coach, as a leadership coach, also connected to my calling. I'm a teacher.
Hey, 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 who do you see on the screen and what
Hey, hey.
voices are showing up? Raise voices. We are back. We have an empowerment conversation for you. Yes, you not have not heard me say that word, but as you know, when we are talking to you, we want you to work on your personal development. And we know that you're in various environments that you may not understand how to find hope, how to get up, how to even do step one. And so we're taking it upon ourselves to bring the people that will have the conversation to say, hey, let me tell you where I'm coming from, where I am now, and maybe a little bit of where I'm going to help you get up. So that's
Yeah.
what we're doing. So that's why we're calling it empowerment. We have a real. I mean, let me say that. Y'all gonna come for me? It's all right. A real sister from Africa. Oh
Hey.
no, listen, get it right. I did not say by association.
Mm.
I said from, not
Yeah.
essence.
Ooh.
DNA.
Mm.
Credible.
Mm.
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am.
Mm.
So we have Modiegi. See, I gotta slow it down because I'm trying not to mess it up. And even if I get 90%, she gonna make me pass the class. Okay. Right, Miss Thomas, I can get my PhD even though I don't have the master's yet. It's all right. Y'all don't worry about that. Don't worry
Okay,
about
we'll be all right.
that.
That's all right. That's
So
all
we
right.
we have her here with us. And before we get into her powerful story, we're going to have Miss Sounds give us the word of the day. Here's what I want you to prepare in advance of word of the day. I want you to listen to her, to our guests, and understand that this is not a fictional novel. What she's going to share is her life. So take what you can from it and find you and do you.
Mm.
I just need to prep you guys before word of the day because I just need a lean in listening, a lean in.
Yeah.
That's an intentional. That's you making up your mind already. All right, I'm gonna give it a shot. I'm gonna really listen. Right? That starts
Yeah.
in the mind first before the action. So Miss Sounds, hey, how you?
Hey, girl. I'm doing good today. I'm doing really good today. Excited for this conversation we got going on.
See?
We started beforehand, but it's really gonna get good on this. So I'm excited for it. And Modiegi, I want to welcome you to
Right.
Raise Voices. We like to do something just to warm up the palate in the beginning, which is called Word of the Day. And what that entails is I'm gonna read a quote that I feel like will resonate with each of us in the moment, and we're just gonna off the cuffs, just verbalize, express how that impacts us right in this moment right now.
Yep.
So I'm gonna start with the quote, which is, "Truth does not change, only our awareness of it." And
Mm.
that's by Malcolm X. Yes, yes. So we're gonna go around. I'm gonna start with you, Modi, because I think you have a lot to share here.
Ooh.
And then we're just gonna spring up on you because you're gonna be up here. We just gonna stop. You
Ooh.
know, we just gonna branch off.
First of all, y'all call this a warm up. Honey,
Yes,
we
it
can
is.
go right into things.
Yeah.
So truth does not change, just our awareness of it. My word. So I would say the first thing that's coming up is perception of self. And I think sometimes that the truth of who we are, again, as human beings, it's very easy to only see the good. It's easy to see like the great things I have done. But the truth of the matter is, I've not always been good. And
Yes.
so understanding the perception of who I am in various eyes of people, there is truth in, could I have been more helpful in one season of my life? Absolutely. Could I have been more direct in a season of my life? Absolutely. Have I hurt people?
Yeah.
Right? The truth of the matter does not change that that happened, but my awareness to understand that my mistakes do not define who I am. And so it is okay to look at truth and truth as it is. If I think back
Mhm.
to my leadership roles, there are times that I look back at that moment, and there are moments I'm like, I could cringe. I'm like, ugh, I wish I did this wrong or did this differently. But the truth is, I was not equipped in certain areas for me
Mhm.
to function and show up as my full self. So
Mhm.
though I may come up with an excuse to say, like, oh, well, it was rough, I didn't know who I, that's cool. But the truth is, could I have led this moment in a different way? Yes. Were there missed opportunities? Yes. But the awareness has shifted into the space around, like, I can look back on it, but the truth don't change. It's just
Yeah.
perception and awareness and understanding that, it's easy for me to point out the errors of somebody else, but when I hold up that mirror to myself, am I gonna
Mm.
be just as honest?
Yeah. Ooh,
Ooh, y'all done
girl.
dove right in.
Yeah,
Y'all didn't
you
waste
know,
no
just
time.
I need a
we,
fan. Anyone got a fan?
right. That was good. That is so good. I think when I think about this quote, it has a lot to do with what you were just expressing about perception of self.
Mm,
Um, when it comes to me, I feel like growing up, I always kind of felt a bit different
mm,
culturally, just because I was a very I was very into wanting to connect and go deeper. And sometimes there were aspects of the culture that did not allow for that because things had to kind of keep going. We needed structure. Um, and so my perception of that early on was that it was a bad thing. And
mm,
so what I internalized as truth was that it's wrong to deep dive, it's wrong to say too much. And so I think that my awareness of this truth about who I am is, for me, is more of like a unlearning
mm.
of what was a truth
Ooh,
before or what felt like a truth before. And I'm seeing it for what it truly is. Um, and I think the part that I'm grateful about is that because it's who I truly am and because I have the true, I'm unbecoming and coming into the full awareness of it, that cannot be hidden by any other truths or
mm,
what we call I would say lies now,
mm.
and looking at it. So that's my perspective.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Am I in the city for the poetry slam? Because I just,
Oh my God.
did I go to Harlem?
Listen,
No,
y'all
Y'all
don't
it's
know there's
giving
listen.
talent
Harlem.
in Harlem.
Because y'all said wet the palate. Honey, this is mealtime nourishment just right off the bat.
Oh my goodness. Listen, it looked like I may not be ready to match these wonderful ladies, but here's what I'm going to say. It really reminded me when there was a point in my life where I looked at others and thought they were doing so well and wanted the formula and wanted the recipe,
Mm,
and then realized that there was ugly inside of me I had yet to
Mhm.
acknowledge.
mm,
I wanted something outside that I had not yet even done enough work inside, all the way down to my toe,
oof,
to excavate and to dig up, to
uh,
deal with my eyes off of the formula of others. And then once I started digging, excavating my own self, and then replanting very slowly. When I tell you it was
mm,
excruciating, slowly,
mm.
slowly, then I started to realize that I should not have the expectations for others to come and save me because it
Ooh.
was my job.
First of all, you're in no space to talk about, I'm not ready for the poetry
Right.
slam.
That's
I
how this
mean,
happened.
I think the thing that I pulled out is like nobody else is coming to save you but yourself. I think that is also like the self responsibility and like that radical responsibility that you need to take for self. But then when I heard from you, Miss Sounds, is like the becoming and unbecoming. I think those are the two
Mm,
nuggets that I'm really holding on to of the versions that we want to be. And for me, is very much connected to who God has created me to be in my
absolutely.
fullest essence of who I'm
Absolutely.
supposed to be. And so like understanding that eh, if your foundation has cracks, then I can't even do the unlearning. I can't even do the unbecoming and becoming aware and understanding that, honey, I can blame everybody else as to
Yes.
why I'm still stuck.
Yes.
Hmm.
Look in the mirror and think about what's in your locus of control that you have now given away your power.
Mm,
So it is nobody else except you giving away your power.
mm,
Yeah, yeah. And where we have to be careful, or where I have to tell myself to be careful,
Mhm.
is that when we have these truths
yeah.
and these acknowledgments that happen within us, it is not to become so arrogant about it
Mhm.
that we get stuck. Because there's that other side of the dial where you're like, okay, I see the work I have to do. I understand it's my responsibility. I now have the tools. And then you start excavating and then you start building these structures. But then you can build so high and not really have the structure firm in some of the areas. And you become arrogant about it. And then you want to
Mm,
tell how to build. They're like, wait, honey, child, I think your plumbing is off.
yeah.
Hello?
That
Hello?
bathroom
And
is flooding every day.
yeah. And even as Ali like to add to that, it's for me, I've in those moments where there's this inflated sense of, yeah, I
Mm.
got this.
Mm.
I'm not compassionate with other people
Mm-mm,
when they're
mm-mm,
in their process. You know
mm-mm.
what I mean? Because
Come
No.
on.
I'm
Come
like,
on.
come on, hurry up, come to where I'm at.
Y'all gonna
And
be
Mm.
I'm
all
not,
right on my rap.
Listen. And like, I think it sounds like that space of the compassion for others. The reality is, in order for you to be compassionate for others, in order for you to love others, and what our mission is like you have to have a security and clarity of self.
Yeah.
Because part of me helping somebody else or being compassionate means that it's gonna take away from me. Because if you think about grind culture, honey, who am I stepping on to get to the top?
Yes.
Right? So like if I gotta shuck a job and push somebody else and scheme, that's when I know there's some foundational things that are not there. And that arrogant itself, honey, it
Yeah.
will humility is coming.
Yeah.
It's either gonna
humility.
come where you let it come, or it's gonna be in a place where you have no choice but to reckon and deal with the things that you need to reckon with, you know?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
whew.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I want us
Yes.
to talk about the birthing
Mm.
of the calling and purpose that you have with the mobilize, the vocalize. But I actually want to talk about it from, I want you first to tell us what it is, how it came about.
Mhm.
Then I want you to give us a part B that says, how do you use what you're doing to
Mm.
prevent people from being lukewarm?
Ooh.
Mm,
Ooh.
that was good.
Listen, when you hear a Black woman say, that's a whole chapter.
Mm.
You better read from the beginning. No.
Right. Either
You
she
better
eating
read
something
from
good or she or she
because
heard something good.
I would say the birthing was when you see somebody that you are proud of, when you see someone that you are absolutely in admiration of what they have accomplished, and to get the reality check that they are human, just like you and myself. And so they still have flaws. They still have desires and dreams that they still have not mastered. Because that was my father. And he was not human to me. He was my superhero. Like he was my superhero. So you couldn't tell me nothing about my father. And so when that happened, when he got sick, it was a reality, the water in my face, like, oh my gosh, like he is human. And so then
Mm,
how do I reconcile this space around that? He has accomplished so much and there's still more to do. And so the
mm,
birthing that following year when he passed in 2019, there was just no way that I was going to allow that to happen again. And I do believe that the things that God has called me to be is a generational breaker, a curse breaker in my family. Because for a long time, it sounds, I resonate with that space of like not fitting in. If you were to see my family, I'm the oddball,
mm.
okay? I am the oddball out of that group. I've
Yeah.
come to recognize that, understand the power in that. And so when my father passed in 2020, I got the call from God to launch my business of Vocalize to Mobilize because too many people had so many things inside of us. We have so many things inside of us that we're not yet putting our mouth to it. We're not putting our hands and feet to it. So therefore, we're not producing what God is telling us to produce. And
Mm,
so that was the birthing place of that.
Mm.
And then I would say the second piece of like, how do I use that information now? Oh, proof. The product is in my family. The
mm,
product is in the life that I live right now. And so I would say one of the tools that I very much speak about in my coaching sessions, one-on-one group workshops that I do is around the space of responsibility of self.
Mm.
And so when we have tools, all of us, we have tools. There's no way that you can be out here talking about, I don't have access to tools. I can't get, Google is free.
Yes.
There are people in your life that you can tap into. There are tools and we have access to them. And so I would say for me, one of the ways that I not only teach to others, but what I do for myself is leveraging tools in my life. And so tools for me is what community am I part of? And so for me, my community of women are women that challenge me biblically, that challenge me to who I am as a woman, a child of God, and like what I want that world to be like and what life to be like. But then I also think about like my family dynamics. When I tell you my children and the way that we speak with each other, in the way we handle disappointments, in the way that we handle anger, even in the space around acknowledging feedback. Because when I had to ask my two oldest boys, I said to them, I said, in what ways can I be a better mom to you all? Be clear. 5 years ago, I ain't asking no question because you're going to get what you get
Oh.
and keep it pushing. Okay. I'm out here sacrificing for all of y'all, you know?
Yes.
But I recognize the damage that I had and not being able to voice to my family what I needed
mm,
because the space wasn't there. They had already given up so much just for us to be here in this country. So me even asking for anything else was out of the question.
mm,
But I knew that was something I wanted to break within my family. And so when I asked my kids, how can I be a better mom? The first thing was like, you're a great mom. That's cute. That's cool. I appreciate it. I really do. And I also understand that means they don't know yet, is it safe for them to give me their real? And,
Yes.
and so part of my own
mm,
development tools that I teach is there's no way that you can tell me that you want to be better, but you're not asking for feedback. Not nobody
mm,
feedback. That's cool. Anybody give. Did you ask? Did you ask? And so those are
mm,
tools that we all have at our locus of control. And so I think
yeah,
about the space that when my son says, I think one way that you could be better is not assume. Ask
Mm.
questions first. You always assume that it's me that left the socks on the floor. You always assume it's me that I
Mhm.
didn't do something. And lo and behold, I received it. And here go the next day. Who didn't take out the dishes out there? And literally Gideon said, but we just talked about, you asked how we can be better, and you said not to assume, and you just did it right now. Yo, humble pie, humble
Yes.
pie. But
Yes.
again,
mm,
I asked. I said I want to be better. I said I want to change the trajectory of our family and how we communicate. So now how do you react when now it's being put in your face? Because don't
yeah,
tell me you want to be better. You don't ask, but then it's given to you. Now you challenging what's being given to
Yeah.
mm,
I love that. I want to put a stackable moment here because that was so well, first of all, you might have been in my home listening to some stuff. No, she wasn't, guys. I'm just saying that
you.
because I promise you, I just had those conversations.
Mm,
mm,
But the stackable moment for me is three things. One, I think that we as a people, and sometime I'm going to say as women, because I don't know the male perspective. So I don't want to say anything from that
agree,
perspective. I
agree,
could ask my brothers,
agree.
they might not agree. Uh, but so I'm going to say from female
Mm.
perspective and the black woman, black person perspective, and say too often we're trying to teach restoration outside of our house
Ooh.
and not enough inside, and
Ooh.
wonder why we're so powerless within the family dynamics.
Restoration outside the house. instead of inside the house.
Yeah, like how are we restoring outside? And inside is it's crazy. It's a tornado. There's a hurricane. If
My
there's a
Lord,
tornado for 2 minutes, there is destruction.
come on.
Like stuff is not whole. I promise you, a 2 minute tornado is enough. Is
Mm.
too much. Okay. So
Ooh.
that's when you were saying to have the conversation with your children and to keep going back, because even though you didn't get it right, first level, second level, third level, you kept going back and eventually was able to implement that. So now, oh, it's what we do, but it wasn't what we did. Right. So
Yeah.
I love that because I feel like we don't say that enough. And I had to face that when I realized how
Mm.
sarcastic my son was. And I was like,
Mm.
dude, why are you so dry when you say certain things? And then I looked at me and I was like, oh, that's not a daddy thing. He got that
Ooh.
for him, mama. He got that for him, mama.
Ooh.
Mm.
Yeah. Right. I realized that there's certain response, like you said, reaction to things in the household,
Mm.
not
Mm.
even life-changing things. When you said that sock and don't leave your towel just laying out there, little wet towel. Okay. You're right. I made assumptions. I
Mm-hmm.
reacted, and my reaction was often sarcastic.
Mm.
And as a result, he has pulled that within his own being.
Ooh.
He's given me back what I've given to him. And then I'm looking at him like, where did you get that? Take it back outside.
Mm.
Mm.
It's not
In the
from
house.
outside.
Mm.
It's not from outside.
Yeah.
It's not from outside. And as difficult as that was to swallow, it woke me up because I don't ever want to be that person that the thing in my house is the people outside telling me about it. I don't like that.
Ooh.
So I'm gonna face the music inside. If it's an inside job, I want to face the inside music,
Come on.
because if it's gotten out, I have lost control of
Mhm.
responsible me. That's a
Ooh.
mess.
Yeah.
It sounds.
Mm. I want to go back
Yes, ma'am.
to something that resonated with me, that Modiegi said in the beginning, which was about the death of your dad, who you cherished dearly. Um, what I resonate with is that all, there have been deaths in my life that I've experienced with people, that were that I cherish, that have been areas that have crushed me,
Mm.
but they broke me open.
Mm.
And then that death that actually happened in the physical was also a proverbial death of an old me that
Ooh.
has birthed a new me, right? And I can resonate with that with you, because I think that that's where shiftings and pivotings have happened
Mhm.
to for me to see more of the true me. And so I'm curious, what has that and or any other deaths or things, in your life, how has that broken you open? And who is has come out of the shell?
Ooh. First of all, y'all are the dynamic duo. I am here as a guest, but I'm also as a learner right now. Y'all are just going in, and I would say the births that have happened that have broken me open, I would say the thing that has been broken open is my desire of my identity to be really connected to Christ.
Mm,
That if there is one thing that was like the catalyst for everything else, it was that. I would say the death of what I listened to. What I listen to now and what I spend my time in the car listening to, on my phone, what I'm listening to when I'm at the house, all that has changed
mm,
because I again, awareness, I just didn't have that awareness. But because now I am intentional and the birth of understanding who I am at the core, I wanna build my faith.
mm,
I wanna build my muscle to be able to face challenges in different ways and not in the old ways that I used to. I
mm,
would say what what's interesting is I just had this conversation this morning, friendships. have changed. I would say the death of what we once enjoyed talking about, the things that we once would relish. Okay, okay.
Yeah.
What don't happen on TV, honey? What's happening with the Real Housewives? Okay, like the things that we talked about.
Yeah.
That has all. There was a death to that. That my desires have changed. This has been an exchange of the things that I listen to, the things I talk about, and so I've seen it in my friendships pivot. I mean, to a point now that we had a discussion thing that happened yesterday, and my friend just sent me a Bible verse to pause and be like, "Who am I? That ain't the thing. If you
Yeah.
had met me 10 years ago, absolutely not, don't send me that. What's that for, honey? That's for them other people. Don't bring that over here." And so for
Yeah.
me, about the catalyst of my father passing just birthed this new version of who I am. And even when I'm in situations now, I'm very clear on like, what is the lesson that I'm supposed to get from this?
Mm.
Two, who am I supposed to reach and teach right now? Because I do understand that my work as a coach, as a leadership coach, also connected to my calling. I'm a teacher. I'm a teacher of kids.
Mm.
I'm a teacher of adults, but I'm also a teacher of self.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Again, because the power starts within me first. And
Yeah.
so I would say those are the things that have been broken, wide open, wide open.
Mm. That is awesome. Yeah.
Even if I want to go there, some jumped in my mind. I'm just trying to like, I'm gonna say this.
Come
Jeez,
on,
bread God, having people confess out loud publicly.
come on, come on.
I would say that part of my struggle in honoring sensitivity,
Mm.
because it's not recognizing it, it's actually honoring it,
Ooh.
is because I was not exposed to many physical deaths growing
Mm.
up.
Mm.
And I know people's gonna be like, well, that's great. But I realize that there's that other side. There's that counterfeit side that, like you're saying, you don't get a breaking up of, a digging
Mhm.
up of when certain things you weren't exposed to. Because
Mm.
we always talk about, oh, I was exposed to this and this and this, and because of it, I've lost my identity, I lost myself, I didn't know I was doing craziness out there. But then there's that other side, what happens when you're not exposed to certain things that are to help you define your identity so you can show up in the world and impact change.
Agree. Agree. Agree.
So
Mm.
right now, whenever there's a death, it hit me a whole lot deeper, and I don't have to know you. And I
Mm.
think it's
Mm.
because
Mm.
God kept me from that exposure. So when people would grieve, I could theoretically grieve with you. I could practically cry with you. But did I feel the pain from myself? No, I had to feed off of your emotional show
Mm.
and
Mm.
Mm.
be like, oh no, I know how she feels because she's cool. And if she's hurting, I'm hurting. And then
Mm.
as I got older, oh yeah, now death became a different thing. Like I feel it, and definitely don't have to be connected to you at all. And I
Mm.
remember that this year, God did something that I thought was strange, but you know, he does what he does. And I ended up dancing at two
Mm.
funerals back
Mm.
to back through people I didn't know. And when I tell you, they were tough for me because I walked in feeling I knew who I didn't know, because now death
Mm.
is a different kind of thing.
Ooh.
So
Mm.
I'm late on that end, and so now I'm starting to understand sensitivity as a powerful thing, and learning how to now honor that in a way versus dismissal.
Mm.
Ooh. I would say I resonate with not experiencing death my father's death is the first death. Well, no, let me take that back. I would say like my grandmother passing probably like when I was like 18, 19.
Mhm.
At that age, it didn't hit the same way
Mm.
because I left South Africa around 11.
Mhm.
Mm.
And though I had a really close relationship with my grandmother, we spent summers there, like all the time there. But because now we've moved and had space apart, physically apart, worlds apart, it wasn't quite the same in the same way that I experienced it with my father. And
Mm.
so that was my first real death, I would say, for me, that I understood loss.
Yeah.
When you
Mm.
understand loss and
Yeah.
understand what that means as a believer, right? And
Yeah.
so I had to get challenged in that way because I was mad at God for a long time.
Yeah.
Because you promised me life, but yet you took my father, a healthy man,
Yeah.
right? But like I didn't
Mm.
understand. I didn't have that knowledge and awareness. And so when I think about what that did for my kids, my youngest doesn't remember my father. He was too young for him to know him. But my older two were like this with my father. And
Mm.
so what I knew to be true was that it broke them. And so I could not let what happened to my father when he lost his uncle, who was like a father figure for him. He didn't have time to process. He was shipped off to go live elsewhere. And so again, when you think about the traumas around like that's the way he was dealt with, didn't have space to deal and understand. I knew I couldn't allow that for my two boys. So like they were faced and confronted with, okay, what does that mean? Yes, I'm sad. Grief is ongoing. Like this year, I didn't feel the same way I felt when on his anniversary of when he passed. But last year it crippled me.
Mm.
It crippled me. And so like
Mm.
it's the ebbs and flows of really understanding who they were to you, how do their legacy still lives, but like also understanding like this is part of the life cycle. And like it is not it's a bad thing because we are the one feeling it. But if I as a believer understand that he is still having eternal life, he's still watching over us, you know? And so like when I
Mm.
told my mom the other day, I'm like, I wish my father could see the version of who I am now. Because what he saw back then was a woman who was searching for validation, searching,
Mm.
because I still remember the day that, if you don't know, I'm married to a Caribbean man. And the way we even met was not traditional. My parents was looking at me side eye, like, do you even know what you're doing? But I remember meeting with various pastors to see who was going to marry us. And I remember one pastor just being really, just not, think of old school. Like you don't speak to the woman, you're only speaking to the man. The man's no longer.
Mm.
And I was so frustrated with my father. And I was like, why didn't you say anything? You allowed that to happen. And he verbatim said, you couldn't handle yourself. Ooh, hold
And
on.
I, ooh.
Hold on. I wasn't ready. But at that time, I was not ready to stand on my own two toes. At the
Mm.
time, I knew that this was my person, that God gave me him. But I would say that marriage was an identity that I needed to feel whole. And I would even
Mm.
venture to say that if you were to talk to my husband now, the person that he married ain't here no more. Honey, she been gone. And so been gone.
Yeah.
And so like
Ooh.
he also had to wrestle with that change as to I'm no longer married to the person who I first met. Who is this new version of this woman that I'm now married to? And how do I still connect in a way that still feels real in the same way, but also understanding you married a little girl who didn't know who she was.
Yeah.
You know, marriage was a thing that was going to make me whole. My work was a thing that's going to make me whole. So I'm
Yeah.
going to work and work and work. I'm going to kid, what do you want? I will do
Yeah.
what I mean, a shapeshifter, honey.
Yeah.
I'm a shapeshifter. And I would say I
Mm.
was a shapeshifter. For whatever was needed, I would conform and adjust just so that I can fit,
Mm.
right? But
Mm.
honey, she been gone. She ain't here no more.
Yeah.
Honey.
Yes.
How do
Yes.
how do you transfer all of the changes that has happened to bring you to the woman you like,
Mm.
love, you want to
Ooh,
be with,
ooh.
and then you have your faith that you more than accept, that you now identify with, that you are working on increasing, and then go out and empower or have these workshops for groups that
Mm.
may not think like you, feel like you, and
Mhm.
they have not arrived, baby. They
Yes.
still like back
Ooh.
there in the yellow bus, they're just trying to get to the bus
Listen,
stop. So how do
listen.
Yeah.
you do
Mm.
that and empower versus they feel like, oh, it's a bit too much.
Mhm, mhm.
You have too big
Mm.
of expectation. I'm still trying to
Listen.
fight some other thing. So how, just tell us how you do that in your
Mhm.
way that motivates someone to want to consider going
Ooh,
down that road for themselves.
ooh. I would say, you know, we talked earlier about arrogance, right?
Yeah.
So I would say for me, there are places where I had to wrestle my own arrogance of feeling like I've arrived. And so,
Mm.
again, when I tell y'all my foundational teachings, it is all in the locus of control. The only person I can control is myself. So whatever you got going on with another person really ain't about the other person. What do I need in this situation?
Yep.
Right. And so
Mm.
the piece of arrogance for myself that I had to check, and I constantly check. So this idea of like, what do you put to death? It's the daily dying of the arrogance. Like,
Yeah.
that no matter how far I've come,
Yeah.
there's still a whole lot more for me to know. So I
Yeah.
feel like that's like the first place that I always enter spaces in. And then two, I would say like vulnerability of being clear about where I've been.
Mm.
I love that people get to see when you say, I love the energy. I what I don't I don't go to the plane like, oh, thank you, pompous. I think about where I was.
Yeah.
I think about where I
Yeah.
was.
Yeah.
And so for me, that is how I continue to put that in check and put that in that continual, like, no, I'm not there yet. But I also don't forget where I come from. And so
Mm.
when I see people, even yesterday, I had to thank God in the moment of like, this is why you brought me into this space. So when I met somebody yesterday, they were talking about their journey with faith and just like they're just beginning. And all I could be was just beamed with excitement. And I'm sure they looked at me side-eyed like, girl, what is wrong with you, honey? I just told you I'm just starting. Ain't nobody arrived nowhere. But again, I always look back to where I was. And I
Yeah.
think about the journey that I just took. And just so thankful that I can also share, here's where I was not too long ago. Because again, the piece that I wish that my parents were able to do for me was take down that facade of being the superhero and superwoman. And so I
Mm.
make it very clear. So what you see now, my ability to go into coaching sessions, my ability to give feedback to a CEO, to a chief level executive leader, it's coming from the place of I know where I've been. And
Mm.
so I bring those experiences into the space now. And so I have not always, failure is my teacher.
Mm.
So when I tell you, nobody needs to look at me and be like, oh, girl, she got it together. Honey, it's okay. I'm glad that you see that, but I never ever leave space for them to even think that this didn't cost anything. There was a
Mm.
cost for this freedom right here. And so I don't ever want anyone to walk away and be like, oh, it must be nice. I wish I could get there. You can. This thing is not unique to me. This freedom
Yeah.
is not unique to me because my failures, my downfalls, oh, I've been there. Because
Yeah.
there was a time that my story had me bound and really feeling as if though that I could not share certain parts of who I am because of shame, because of guilt, because of condemnation. And it could be, and my story also like it's a wide range from like childhood traumas to adulthood navigating to like the smallest thing of like, what did I say to this person to hurt them? Like all the things that I daily go through. So like for me is understanding that my story is actually the breakthrough that somebody needs. They don't need to know the mountaintop story of how I'm here now. My story is the thing that's going to resonate with somebody else to also let them know, like, oh, what? You attempted to take your life? What?
Mm.
That's real. Like, I've been there.
Yeah.
So this is not a facade of glitz and glams and nothing. Honey, there is a cost. And I
Yeah.
proudly wear that with a badge, So
Yeah.
therefore, don't ever get that misconception of like, it's been roses all the way.
I
Yeah.
love this. I'm gonna run around this room one day, and then y'all just keep staring at the camera till I get back.
Yeah.
Here's why I'm excited right now is because this is exactly why we have raised voices. I keep telling y'all they're unsung heroes in our community.
Come on.
I didn't say they were perfect people, but I'm saying that they have decided that they have the courage now to speak up and to tell somebody, listen, whether or not we're in the same geographical location or I know you, I hope that when I tell you what I've been through, where I'm coming from, that will help you to pick you up. It's
Ooh,
exactly what Raised Voices is about.
come on.
Yeah.
Exactly why we're doing this. We're not doing this for publicity. We're not doing this because we don't got other stuff going on in our lives.
Hello?
It's because I didn't want to be the person to keep walking by those people. And I'm like, yo, there's something about that person, man.
Agree.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm.
I don't even phone, but they make me feel good, or they always say something nice, or they just seem positive all the time. And that's exactly what raised voices. So I'm just excited because you just confirm and affirm,
Yes.
confirm,
Yes.
affirm that
Come
we're
on.
supposed to be having these conversations. And for those who are
Absolutely.
ready, provide them the space and ability to speak up. That's
Ooh,
all I got to say.
I love.
That's all I
Oh,
got to say. The sound
yes.
get them, because I'm gonna run around the room. All y'all gonna see in the
Ooh.
background, then I'll be back, baby.
I, I love your story because from what we are hearing, it sounds like a story of integration of
Mm.
all parts of yourself. You mentioned earlier about shape shifting,
Ooh.
and I can resonate with shape shifting, especially I'm also kind of in this what I like to call a fusion marriage, right? We're two different cultures. My husband's also a Caribbean man. I'm an African
Mm.
woman. It is
Oh, you
that
already know. Mhm.
Untold chapters. No, no, no.
two very
Mhm.
rich cultures, really trying to fuse together, raising kids, all those kinds of things,
Yeah.
right? So understand the earlier years of really kind of bouncing around and being like, am I this? Am
Mm.
I this kind of woman? Am I that?
Mm.
Who am I? And do I cook this? Do I cook that? Do
Yeah.
I cook both? And so I think that similar to your journey, I've come to a place of all things can be integrated
Mm.
to become this fusion of all things, all of the beautiful parts of everything, right? And so my question for you is, can you speak to us about how exhausting shape shifting is, one,
Mm.
and then talk about the rest of integration, like the
Mm.
rest that integration provided you.
Love that question, Miss Sounds. Okay, I'm gonna have a tambourine.
I mean, you talk about running. I could run right now just off of that question.
Mm,
Because that shape-shifting energy, when I tell you the thinking work, because what it is, your exhaustion is not physical, though it may manifest that way.
yeah.
You're really talking about mental gymnastics that you are constantly doing.
Yeah.
You are constantly, what do they need? Ooh, what should I say? Ooh, what do they need me to say? How can I get the right answer?
Yeah.
Baby, I'm tired just even saying them 4 questions. I
You
am tired. So when you talk about exhaustion to a point where even when you by yourself, you're not even at rest because you don't know.
Yeah.
Because there was a point in time when I was shape shifting, I would always say, like, oh, I love being around people. Oh, I love people. Always on the phone, always trying to call somebody. Why? Why? Why do you not sit still? Right?
Mm,
So, like, for me, I couldn't sit still because where was my affirmation of self coming from other people?
mm,
So, if affirmation is coming from other people, you can't be there by yourself. So, that mental gymnastics, that mental exhaustion, to a point where now it's just like you now may have an original thought. Now that thought is said out loud. That thought is being challenged. Now you backing up. Now it's like, oh, I think, or if if y'all agree,
Ah,
or it's just my 2 cents. Whatever come out this month is definitely more than worth than 2 cents because you got to understand the
amen.
conversation that I got right now.
Yeah.
You got bank coming out of this thing because experience is the value that none of y'all can bring to the table. Everyone
Mm,
brings their experience. It is not to downplay anybody's, but the experience that I bring, there's value in that, right? And so you can't even have that because you're so busy. Like,
mm,
is it right? Is it wrong? Do they like it? Oh, I shouldn't wear these kind of shoes, honey. Even from the clothes that you wear,
yeah.
even from the physical appearance of self is based on what does everybody want? Like what's the trend right now?
Mm,
That is just facts across the board. So I spent years and this is why sometimes I gotta look back and just be like, girl, what were you doing? And all I could do is just laugh and just be grateful that I'm not there,
mm,
right?
Yes.
But when I tell you
Yeah.
the rest that you get, I ain't worried about nothing except
Mm.
what is the call? What is my purpose? What is my assignment? And even when friction comes now, it's not even something that breaks me down, because friction and you searching validation for other people, honey, don't go together. It don't go together, because there's no way
Mm.
for you to be clear headed when you are waiting other people to confirm who you are. So for me, that rest is very much in the space around like, whoever is supposed to be in the room is in the room. So
Mm.
my rest in self is when I put on a workshop and 0 people show up. That
Mm.
is not a degradation of who I am. That is
Ooh.
not a sense of value of what I'm able to bring. And that was not always the case. As an entrepreneur, what them people tell you? Start a business. Everybody's coming. It's sold out.
Yeah, and that's
Okay,
not it.
and that's
Mm-mm.
what they say. That's what they say.
Yeah.
But again, when you do not have rest in understanding of who you are, if you do not have rest in understanding your value just by yourself, not from what you do, just from you opening your eyes and just breathing, then
Wow.
whoever is supposed to be in those rooms, I'm well. I'm well. And so even right now, when I have my 45 people who open up my newsletter, it's not 45,000, though
Right.
God will get me there in my due season,
Amen.
but that is who I'm supposed to serve at that time. So rest is really the safety net that you have, that whatever goes down, I'm well. So if
Ooh.
you put me in the place of at a new employment, I am who I am in whatever space.
Yes.
In whatever space. And so when everybody's like, your energy, oh, I love the outfit, honey, I rock my African garb wherever I go. Interview, no
Period.
interview. Because you need to understand, this is who I am.
Yes.
And
Mm.
Yes.
just the clarity in that, and the piece around the compassion for others. This is the point where that is no longer about like, it's only about me, 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 but it's really the space of when you are clear and secure about who you are, the space that you give for other people to also do the same.
Mm.
Yeah.
You
I
give
like that.
people the same opportunity as well.
Yeah.
Not with you guzzling down their throat. Be you, be authentically you. No, no, don't nobody need it. People just need to see the model. How are you living your
Mm.
life?
Mhm.
So don't say that you're a Christian, but you're not living like one.
Mm.
You're not speaking like one,
Mm.
right? And so the model, the way I live now is absolutely from a place of rest. It is
Mm.
absolutely a place of rest, because that clarity, that validation, those are things that don't come from the outside.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. And
Because
it
those,
does remove guilt when
oh,
you come from that place. Because I remember just saying no to clients that wanted me to do something or do something outside of hours or a little extra thing. I also feel bad. I'm like, oh my God, they feeding my family. Here I am saying no. And
mhm.
then I started saying to myself, but mentally you need a break, right? And you shouldn't feel bad for saying no because you need a break and they want you. But if you break down, then they still don't get you. So, but it took me a while because I mean, we're gonna make that money and we're gonna keep the credibility up and we're gonna be sought after, be marketable until I just realized that I made enough money. I'm all right. I need the break more than I
Yeah.
need the work. But
Um,
it took years to get
oh,
there.
absolutely.
It
Absolutely.
took it took years to get there. I want to throw something at both of y'all. Because we're gonna wrap up because you got stuff to do.
Yes,
We're gonna have
please.
to bring you
Please.
back. So I want you guys to evaluate a statement that I make to my children. I'm gonna go on the therapy couch and I'm gonna take it.
Come
Take
on.
it.
Let's
Whatever
do it.
y'all do, I'm going to take it.
Let's do it.
So I say to my children all the time when I find that they want to self-destruct over a small thing because they don't want to be patient with themselves to get it done. I say, we don't do problems, we do solutions.
Mm.
So I'm gonna throw that at you guys. When you hear that, does that evoke a negative or positive? What do you feel if you were to hear me say that to
Mhm.
someone? And
Mhm.
then I'm going to explain why I'm doing that.
Yeah,
Does it have
yeah.
a point to me?
I would say my immediate response, I wanted to ask, where's the middle? how do you honor self? And what I hear from that is either or. I don't live a life of either or. Anytime anybody in my life has told me either or, honey, I'm busting the gate wide open and find another route to get there. So
Mm,
when I hear that, my wondering is where's space? And the space in the middle is feeling. The space in the middle is to honor. I know what I'm supposed to do. I know I'm supposed to look for the solution, but I do need to acknowledge the fact like I feel guilty right now, or I feel really angry right now, or I feel
mm,
betrayed in this moment right now. And so for
mhm,
me, the middle is how do you take what you feel, not let the feelings run you, not the feelings dictate your decisions, but how do we then take that for the solution that we need to take forward?
mm,
And so that's
mm.
the normal response I get, Miss Sounds. Go ahead.
Oh,
Ooh.
That is the normal
um,
response I get. And
Okay.
that's exactly why I use the statement, because I'm fighting against that response being the initial. Go ahead,
Ooh.
Miss Sounds.
mm. When I hear that, or if I was receiving that, I would also feel like there needs to be some rhythm of lament. Like
Mm,
I want to be able
mm,
to uh, feel as though I'm cared about, not just for what I can produce or overcome, but for just being and just feeling and just being human. And I think feeling is a huge. It's what makes us human. And I would want that space to not be fixed or have anything to fix, but
mm.
just be for a moment.
And
Yeah.
Now,
see,
come on. Now I'm interested. Come on. Come on.
this
Come
is
on.
what I
Yeah.
normally get. So part of what God had me do was my ex-husband is a massive feeler that is led by his feelings a lot.
Mm,
And part of breaking the curse of that over our children is for me to not always have them look at a failure or an obstacle or a boundary from a feeling,
mm,
but to
mm,
convince them that if they slow down long enough and process with their brains, the answers are there without
mm,
me giving them the answers.
mm,
And that's
mm,
Mm,
exactly why I challenge that, because a lot of us, minority groups, regardless of your color, if they tagged you as minority, we always respond to that question as you're not really giving me a space to be or to feel or to express. And that's something we need to start to break.
mm. I do.
Because
Okay.
only because what has to happen, and I know I tricked you guys with that question. So hey,
Oh, it's
y'all,
all good. Come
y'all
on.
people out there, don't be judging my people. They had no setup, they didn't know it was coming. What we have to do is frame the question or the thought or the
Mm,
statement
okay.
for the environment so that it's not triggering or it doesn't pull them down to think they cannot be, feel, express,
Gotcha.
or
mm,
that there's no safety.
Agree. Agree. Because
yeah.
in hearing your context with it, what I heard in that slowing down is the space for it.
Yes, ma'am.
Part of slowing down is allowing my brain to feel what I need to feel, and it's allowing my brain to also think about how do I move forward in
Yeah.
that space? Because you being, and I'm going to use a word, if you're not in a rational, calm state of mind, I don't care what you're fit to do.
Yeah.
The best solution is not coming. Our
Yes.
minds and hearts need to be at that place. So that's what I receive in that. I appreciate that. I
I
appreciate
love
Hmm.
that. But I love
Yeah.
that you guys came with that answer. And of
that.
course,
Yes.
I knew you didn't have preference, but it is part of the thing that I am,
I love.
yeah, definitely working on and just making sure. All right. So
Yes.
we're going to end, but I have one big question and I have it for both of y'all. Y'all both on the couch. So, how important do you guys believe that conversation, not professional conversation, but just conversation with those that you're connected to or called to or helping? How important are conversations that are connected to your personal stories to the implementation of those relationships and the progress of them? Are they important, or should you not really tell your personal stories in those developing relationship and then let God do the work? Like, how important are these personal conversations, regardless of the level of relationship?
Mm.
Want to go back? Go first. I went
Yeah,
first.
I can. Um, I don't think I can show up authentically without my story, to be honest with you. So even in a developing relationship, I think I am clear on my story enough to know how much to give,
Mm,
right? To temper the intensity and the scope to which I share.
Mhm.
But I think that if I don't base my story is grounding for me first and foremost in a conversation. And if my value, which it is to be authentic, always need to pull from the relatability of my life. So that's one. But I think that the conversation itself, when I'm not overthinking my story as well, and I allow it to blossom the way it's supposed to, it actually adds more color to my story. It adds more perspective to my story. And so I see conversation as um, the other part, like the work that the other piece of the work that I was doing solo.
Mhm.
There's additional answers to the work that I've been doing solo, and I need this conversation for the full totality of what I've experienced to take shape, to be what it's always intended to be. So yeah, both for me, it's both. It's
mhm.
I need it to ground me. I need my story to ground me, but I also need the person's conversation to add another piece and layer to my story too.
Agree. I would add, I would double down on what you said, Miss Sounds, around not everybody has the same access point.
Sure.
So in my early beginnings, I'm not about to just whoosh everything, personal or professional. I think this is the part of discernment that we also need to understand what positions people play in your life. And so using that discernment and wisdom will allow you to know how deep do you go with this person. And
Mhm.
so I think at a human level, it is very much about relationships, regardless, personal lives or professional life. A human connection is part of it is embedded in what we do, but in
Mhm.
how we connect is the one that is very much based on what we need it to be. And so I would say, even starting my new role at a new place, people already know certain things that I value, but they don't know my story. There's only a few people who know my story,
Mhm.
and I would say that those relationships are beyond the place that I've come to this place, right? But there are places though that I do share of myself, that are important for people to know, regardless whether we are intimately connected personally or not personally. You just
Mhm.
need to know that about who I
Mhm.
am.
Yeah.
Love that. I'm gonna arrange a dinner for all the guests.
Right.
We're gonna do a live as a dinner as we break bread.
Yes, I love it. I
Yes.
love
Listen, so we're gonna wrap up, but we're gonna do the rise and fall. Then we're out of here.
it.
We have enjoyed you. Are we allowed to say that? We enjoyed
Yes.
you.
Well, I hope y'all allowed to say it because I very much enjoyed my time.
Yeah.
I mean, it just was very natural, very easy, and yeah, I feel good. I'm relaxed.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, I love it.
Empowered. Yeah. All
Yeah,
that.
just real
I love
cool.
it. I
So,
love it.
Miss Sound's gonna lead us and explain rise and fall, and that will be our final part, and then we'll wrap.
Okay, thank
Yeah. Um, So what we like to do is culminate the conversation with rise and fall, which is our ending reflections on the conversation. So rise is what is one thing you heard today that you it resonates with you. You will continue to let it rise in your life. And then the fall is, what did you think originally coming into this conversation about something in life that after this conversation you feel like that doesn't serve you
mm,
anymore to think or be that way.
mm.
Um,
Okay.
yeah.
I would say,
So
oh, sorry.
yeah, go ahead. No, go ahead.
I would say the rise is the the truth quote, the word of the day. I think that was that was just such a beautiful way to begin. I think it just set the tone for our conversations. And yet, even in my situation I'm even thinking about, like I had to dig deep into like what is the truth about this connection that I have with this person, and understanding that the perception may have changed, but the truth is still the same. So I think the beginning was the rise for me, and really holding on to that, and really holding on to the second piece around the becoming and unbecoming. And that is a journey that I am
Mm.
constantly on and love to be in. I would say the piece that I'm fallen, and I don't know if I really have one that's fallen or adjusting or leaving behind. I would say that piece around, it was just like the double down and reframing around spaces when you gave that quote around, like, don't look at the problem, look at the solution, but like just a reframing of what is it that we need in order for us to really function at our best self. So therefore I am able, because again, the thing that resonated was that space around answers already within. We already have them. It's just a matter of how do we go about getting them.
Yes.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Miss House.
Thank you.
Oh man, this
I feel
ah,
tingly.
yeah, I know. I just so positive. So positive. I love it. I love it. I would say that the rise for me is talking about how the mistakes make you. Like you need them to become, I thought that was so powerful because even I think those are both the things that make you, but it's the thorn in your side too that really makes you go, stay humble, right? And I guess that's my fall, that my relationship with mistakes will continue to develop where it is not a negative thing. It's not an indictment on me. It is a part of what allows me to become, right? So that's the fall. I did it first. But I think my rise, I think it's just this continuous crushing that happens in life that crushes you open, right? That you are not, if we, go off of, if I go off my belief that um, we live to live again, that it is that whatever that in living, you have to pass through death. And when you do pass through death, you walk into life right after that. And so anything that crushes me is not to um, destroy me, but it's to allow me to resurrect again, that kind of thing. So
I love that. So
yeah.
I'm gonna be a little practical. So this conversation of death and how it opens you introspectively to really self-examine and then decide that even though the hurt is there, I am going to go forward nonetheless, because I not only have to honor the passing of a person or a thing, but I need to also honor that I am here with work still to be done and only I can do it. So that stuck with me as a rise, is to always really consider that, and also attaching to that those who are closest to me that have allowed me to be privy about their breaking within themselves from an actual death. As you said, your dad, whoever the physical death is to really stand in the gap for them and pray that the breaking is one that will bring a self-becoming and not a destruction to have to run away from life, but to run into life. So that was the rise, and then the fall is making sure I have the framework for some of the things that I say to those closest to me. Make sure I explain the framework so that I don't have a negative indictment.
Yeah.
Agree.
It's just
Agreed.
important. So listen, Future Risers, we love you so much. We appreciate that you keep showing up. We're just letting God do what he does in terms of who he brings, and in terms of where we go on YouTube and things of that nature. And we just want you to be able to keep showing up, share it with someone. I know you guys are not into the longer conversation, but that is where the profound essence of what we're trying to do is show up for the longer conversations, not only here, but in your own lives. Stop thinking that the short conversations are all that you need to grow. So that's what I want to say to you guys. So you guys know what you got to do with the subscribe, like, share, and all of that situationship. What I want y'all to do more than all of that, comment, engage, show some love for the guests, and do your work. Keep developing. I don't care where you live, what you're doing. Find that ray of hope, latch onto that thing, and ride it until you get out of the dark. Come on into the light with us. We love you. We want you to stay empowered, stay encouraged, stay motivated. But most of all, find your best you. That's a positive thing that when you look in the mirror, you can say, all right, I am doing better. So we appreciate you. We hope you have a great rest of your day. We'll see y'all soon.
All right.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye.